Hey, welcome back to the 55 Buick POS Special Build. The engine is just about ready to go in. There's just a couple things I want to do before we fly it in there. So when I last left off, the engine was pretty much assembled. But one thing I noticed when I was tightening up the rocker arms is that I had some lash on the rockers. Now, right now, it seems like I don't have any, but I have to double check. And it may be because I pumped up the oil a little bit by cranking it over. I don't know if that's enough to put any oil in the into the galleries or not, but either way, I need to check the push rod length. It may have changed either because of base circle on the cam being different, and or because I put the 7-layer gaskets, head gaskets in here that are a little thicker. That may have changed also. But I want to see. What I'm looking for is, and I dug into this and I really made it more complicated than it was, because it's basically the same as a small block or big block Chevy. The way I always used to set my rockers on those was half a turn pass, zero lash, basically. And it's the same deal with these LS engines. It's just that it's not adjustable. So I'm going to have to put, cam lobe on its base, adjust the rocker to zero lash, and then see how many turns I get before it's tightened down and the rocker's all the way down. If I get a half a turn or better, I'm good. In fact, if I get a quarter turn, I may call it good. But what I want to see is I'm going to prime the engine with oil first, just to make sure everything is full of oil and the lifters are pumped up and I don't get, a bad measurement or something because of that. So, order of operations here is, first I'm going to prime the engine with oil, and then we're going to check the push rod length. All right, so to prime the LS engine, not doing anything new. I'm sure people have seen this done a million times. It is pretty cool that it can be done for basically less than $20. I removed the oil gallery port that goes on the side of the block right there with a 8mm Allen key to remove that, unscrew that thing. And then what I did was I took my old oil pressure sending unit that I didn't need anymore, that was threaded into the back of the block, and I broke it off and basically tapped it for 8th pipe, and I put a 8th pipe to nipple fitting on it. So that cost maybe $5 for the fitting, and that's that. And then I bought one of these HDX sprayers at Home Depot, which with tax was only about $15 or less. And there it is. I have a couple gallons of oil in it. Only modifications I made to it were I stuck a valve stem on it, and it was free. I mean, you can just snag it off of any wheel you got laying around or whatever. I happen to just I just cut up 2 more Jaguar XJ6s to get the front suspensions from them, and they use these thread-on valve stems. So I snagged one of those from a scrap wheel. And I have a couple gallons of oil in it. I'm using the hose right from the sprayer. Just took the wand off and pushed it on the nipple. That's it. So that's pretty much $20 worth of stuff for less right there. And then up here, all I did was, and you don't have to, is I needed a fitting anyway to go to oil pressure out there for the turbo feed and my gauge in the car. And I just stuck a cheap gauge on there that I had laying around, which of course, if you don't have one, I mean, they're dirt cheap, swap meets or whatever. They're nothing. So I regulated my air pressure in the building down to like 20 pounds. I'm going to put some air on that and see if we can get some oil coming out of these rockers. All right, here goes nothing. I've never done this before. I'm hoping I don't need a clamp on this hose. It's pushed on pretty tight. Hope it doesn't come blowing oil off on me. I'm going to put some air in this tank. Like I said, I'm down to like 20 pounds on this thing right now. Let's see what happens here. Sounds like it's leaking out the top. Let's see. Is that not on right? Let's see. it's leaking out this button on the side. It's a release button. I don't have it right. Let's try that. There we go. All right, I got like 20 pounds in the tank. Watching the oil level. See if it's going down. If it is, it's pretty slow. But it is going down. So that's good. So it is putting oil through the engine. And then I have a socket on the crank. I'll turn it over. And once I start seeing oil come out, I'll turn it. I can hear. Yep, I can hear it. Pushing air out of the push rods. All right, I am pushing through the first couple gallons, which is just about gone. Nothing's coming out of the rockers yet. So it's still filling up the system, but I do get a pressure reading there. I got 10 pounds reading on the gauge there when I put air in the tank. Who knows what's accurate, my gauge on the wall or the gauge here, but it's definitely filling it. Oh, there you go, you can hear it. There it goes. That's a lot of air. All right, I think I got to top off the oil. Pump it back up. All right, filled back up with oil again. Time to hit it again. There's a compressor. All right, so the passenger side is getting oil coming up on some of the rockers, but not really on the driver's side. So I'm going to crank this over, quarter turn, and see if that helps get anything out of the other ones. Put some more air pressure on it. All right, so I pushed the oil through. In fact, I even drained the oil back out of the engine and ran it through again. And some of the rockers did not get oil through them, even after rotating the crank. I don't know if it's just because I'm not putting a real high pressure in, but I had some on the driver's side and some on the passenger side that got oil. But hey, it's the first time I've ever done it. That may be normal. I don't know. The highest pressure I had on my gauge, I think, was maybe 20 pounds. That's about it. I don't know if that's enough to get it circulating through the engine. Also, now that the pan is full of oil, I put the truck dipstick in, made sure that read okay, which it did. It reads full. So what I'm going to do is to check push rod length. I'm going to pick a couple rockers that I know filled up with oil. I'll pull the, what's this, 246, number 8 intake valve is got oil for sure. And here's the number, what's that, number 4 exhaust valve has oil for sure too. So I could check an intake and exhaust. I don't think it changes as far as base circle goes. But I'll check a couple of them out and see what we get. All right, so what I found was after doing the priming a couple times, not all of the push rods got oil. Now I think that's just because I'm not cranking the engine over completely enough times to get oil up through all the passages, but I'm confident that the engine is oiled, so that's good. But the thing with that is I don't think all of the lifters are completely pumped up, because I have some rocker arms that show 0 lash with the bolt snug down before it's torqued, and I have some that have still lash in them. So I think the lifters are not pumped up all the way. So just to be sure, I'm gonna wait to check push rod length until this thing is actually started up. I mean, I'll fire it up, hopefully oil pressure is good, and I'll listen for you know, clattery rocker arms. If they're making a ton of noise, you know that there's lash, and I'm gonna have to get longer push rods. If it runs quiet, then it took up the lash. So I just torqued all the rockers to 22 foot-pounds, and I'm just gonna roll with it and see what happens. So next thing to do is just to put the transmission on this, and I think it's finally time to put it back in the car. So next video, I'll be going over the way I'm gonna mate the old school or old style Turbo 400 to the newer LS.